Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom.
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season.
Top of the day. Flatfoot.
Now please, don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason.
Hey kids, here's a present for you. Be sure to run real fast with it now. Come on, double time, let's go. Move, move, move.
It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. Or it could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. We're live on a Monday, the 14th of December. Not very long left until the end of the year. We've actually only got a couple of shows left. We've got one more standard show and then our end of year show to happen. And our standard show, let's just say we're looking at one, probably is what critics are saying and what even IMDb have said is the best movie ever.
Yeah, is that Creed?
Well, no, that's not until January. To think, we could have actually had a discussion of putting Creed in our top 10 movies of the year in 2015, whereas now, because the way they've decided to schedule it in the UK, we can't include it in our films of 2015. We have to contemplate it in 2016, and normally what happens is, when we look over our movies of 2015 or that year, we always seem to forget what happens in January and February. So people might have forgotten that movies like Whiplash came out this year.
I was just thinking that funny it happened this year with the same thing, and both of the big actors in those two films are in a film in our DVD section this week.
Yeah, so it's just, it is like that. It's how fickle the movie industry is. These big movies, they get all applauded at the start of the year and then forgotten about. And fortunately for us, we're not getting Creed until January. The best thing though is we're not getting the Chipmunks movie until February.
not reviewing it. You're doing all the animation.
Whereas in America, they stupidly decide to open it up on exactly the same day as Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which is a balmy idea to do. We get the Peanuts movie a couple of days after Star Wars.
Yeah.
They get Chipmunks. But we're not here to actually look at the Chipmunks movie this week. You're taking over the cinema section because you're reviewing these films.
Well, we're starting off with a few films out this week. We've got By the Sea, which is Angelina Jolie Pitt's latest direction, as well as acting in the film with her husband Brad Pitt. We have
Nick in the Come On movie shows bit on that one. It should be Brad Jolie Pitt, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah. We've got Tina Fay and Amy Pholer playing sisters in the latest quirky comedy from those two. And we've got Peter Mullen in small Scottish indie flick drama Hector.
Yeah, and on Blu-ray and DVD, I'm taking over the Blu-ray and DVD section, whereas Andy will be hosting them, so I'll be looking at these few films.
Not so small, but let's say young drama with Paper Towns. The movie we were talking about just now, with a couple of actors who appeared in films, one at the beginning of this year, one at the beginning of next year, with Fantastic Four. How fantastic it is, we'll get to that in the DVD section. Stuart, I'm sure, will have some words to say. And then also talking of other reboots to do with franchises, Vacation.
Yeah, and I saw your little thing, the message you sent to me after you saw Sisters, seeing that you're wondering why a lot of people are talking about how funny it is, and you managed to actually just get to the laugh test, the 6 laugh test.
Yeah.
I wish I could have gotten to the 1 laugh test with Vacation, but more on that a little bit later on. We also have our TV movie of the week. I've gone for a couple of interesting ones this week.
I just have one. I'm sticking to the rule of just having one, because there's a lot of average films on this week, and the film I've chosen isn't a massive exception to that, but it's a film that I think is kind of slightly above the rest. We'll get to that.
And
though.
just a little bit of ahead of time, it's best if you actually put your thinking cap on now and choosing a couple of films that are over Christmas.
Yeah,
because there is a lot of good films on this year, especially Film 4. They've got some fantastic movies. We've also got the Blu-ray DVD top 10, the UK box office top 10, but we kicked off do with some movie news.
Yeah, excuse me, you'll have to sort of excuse my throat is very, very froggy, as you can probably tell.
I guess you could do with my herbal tea that I've got at the moment right beside me.
I'd probably end up breaking out in hives if I drank that, to be honest. No real news this week, because it's been a very slow week. For news, that is. For trailers, on the other hand, it has been balmy. Of course, Star Wars is out on Thursday. Wednesday midnight showing for those of us that are going to one, and so obviously a whole bunch of new big sort of blockbuster special effects films have got their trailers out and have been released online, some of them, and supposedly a lot of these will get aired in front of Star Wars in the cinemas. So I mean, in the last day we have had in particular Star Trek Beyond, which is Justin Lin's one, the first one not to be J.J. Abrams, oddly enough, who's done Star Wars. We have the Independence Day Resurgence trailer, which is really looking a lot bigger than the first one, which is hard to believe, but if you see the trailer, I think you might agree. And also there's been a few days recently as well before that, the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, which has been released. Supposedly there will also be a new Deadpool trailer being released on Christmas Day. Whether or not this means it's going to make an appearance before Star Wars The Force Awakens, or whether or not it'll be after Christmas Day, that will be appearing in cinemas, we don't know. But I expect we'll probably get a collection of them before cinemas, as well as one of or both of the Batman vs Superman trailer and the Captain America Civil War trailer. So if you're going to see Star Wars, you've probably got quite a lot of trailers coming up there, which might be, interesting, and you're right down most people's alley.
Yeah, also thrown into the mix the TMNT 2 trailer, the new Turtles trailer.
Yes.
That was released a few days ago, along with Warner Brothers' The Legend of Tarzan, as well. Alexander Skarsgård in that one, directed by David Yates, the guy who directed the last two Harry Potter films. So
and there was also, I forgot about as well, just remember, the BFG, Disney's big adaptation of that. I mean, we need to actually see about, because we haven't had a chance to do it, but we need to see about putting these up on the website.
Unfortunately for me, I have my work's Christmas party tomorrow night. I don't think I'm going to be in a decent enough state. Well, I'm not drinking, but yeah, I won't have enough time to be able to do it then. But we'll try
you're not
to
drinking?
get some kind of trailers up on the side.
You mean you're not drinking, so people can't look forward to some drunken posters from you?
No. I don't get drunk anyway, and I don't suffer hangovers. It's one weird thing for me. No matter how much I drink, I don't have the hangover thing.
Can I make a point then? If you don't get drunk, you don't get hangovers. That's kind of the point.
Well, I have drank copious amounts of alcohol in at times, stupid amounts of alcohol. Yet the next morning, I'm perfectly fine. No headache, no bad stomach, nothing.
I hate you.
Makes a lot of people jealous, I know. But yeah, back to the trailers, not alcohol drinking and stuff like that, which we don't condone. But any of the ones that really impressed you? For me, I was surprised by Independence Day Resurgence.
Yeah, I gotta say as well, because I heard about Independence Day. It is 7 months off. Which is early for them to have a trailer already with that many completed special effects, because the special effects in it looked completed to a complete quality. A lot of time you get trailers, you see the effects and you go, okay, it doesn't look fully ready, but we are, several months away. They're probably going to touch it up a little bit and finish it off. Some cases that when the film comes out you realise that's not true, but a lot of the time it is. And I saw the Independence Day one, and I had to actually watch it twice in a row, not because of the fact that oh, that's cool, because it was cool. I genuinely was like, oh, but because of the fact of the, I had to watch it to look at the effects a second time, just because of the fact of there were so many. It was an eye candy assault, and I could not take it all in the first time round.
Can I just rub it in slightly? I managed to watch it in 4K.
I watched it on an iPad.
I watched it on my gorgeous 49-inch 4K TV, but yeah, it's.
I'm just to rub it in your face. I'm going to set up my projector and watch it on an 80-inch screen in HD.
Well, I get to still see it in 4K. But yeah, it's an assault on your senses. There is a ton going on in that 2.5 minute trailer that's shown off. One thing that didn't make an appearance, and because there isn't any proper news, and it was sort of news in a way, people were speculating what's happened to Will Smith's character, and then it's come
spoiler territory.
No, it's come to a light where a website was actually released alongside the trailer, which indicates that Will Smith's character was killed.
Yeah.
So he's dead because of the fact that they were experimenting on ways to try and fully eradicate the aliens, stop them coming back to Earth. However, he died during one of the experiments.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean it's slightly spoilers territory, but it's something that will be explained very early on in the opening of the film or something like that. Because in these things, you know, they give that away, and it's kind of like it's a weird infomercial video that was released on it's like viral marketing.
Prometheus and all that kind of stuff. But I think Prometheus handled it better. But the trailer, if it looks as fun, if the film itself is as fun as the trailer looks, then it should be an entertaining, brain-dead summer blockbuster movie. Because if it's going to be that much of an assault on your senses, we know what trailers can be like. They can be very devious. They can show us all the best bits, and then when we go in, the stuff that's sandwiched in between it makes no sense, and it's an absolute ball fest. So yeah, that could be the case. I'm hoping that's not, and I'm hoping that it does get the fun of Independence Day. So it's just
it does look very much darker than the first one, I have to say.
Yeah, it does look darker, but Jeff Goldblum's in it, and so
yeah.
Although talking
of Jeff Goldblum, I mean, seeing films at the trailer, seeing the films at the cinema, you always get the adverts before them. His curry adverts, not curry as in the food, curry as in the chain. Other chains are available of retailers for electrical appliances. Not many, since a lot of them closed down. But he's doing an advert series for them, which are actually quite funny and quite comedic. Very weird and quirky, as Jeff Goldblum is.
Yeah, I love Jeff Goldblum, so it's good that they've got him back. The Star Trek Beyond trailer, which was only released today,
and it wasn't even announced. It was literally just put out there by them. I did not see anything about it before. Nothing came up about it before, and it literally just came up in my Facebook feed from Star Trek's Facebook group, because I'm a follower.
It preempted itself, because this was actually supposed to get its proper showing before Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so it's decided to just come out a couple of days beforehand, which is a good thing. It looks decent. I actually do like the look of it. I saw you with a discussion with Stuart from Page to Screen, with him saying it doesn't look like it's got the heart of Star Trek, where I actually agree with you.
I think it very much does, yeah. It goes back to the original series and the way that was all done, and the whole thing of them going down. I mean, majority of the episodes of the original series were involved them going down to a planet and being on a planet and dealing with something on a planet, and that's what it looks like they're doing. Fair enough, it looks from the trailer. I don't want to give away a spoiler thing, but knowing that they incorporated things from Star Trek 2 into the last one, and from seeing the trailer, you can tell they've incorporated a big thing. I'm not going to say, we don't want to say spoilers in case anyone doesn't want to watch it, because some people do avoid them. But there's a big thing incorporated from Star Trek 3, I think, into this one, which is a little bit annoying, but we'll see how that plans out, I guess, in 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, and then the X-Men Apocalypse trailer, very X-Men-ish, lots of slow-mo stuff like that, lots of bleakness, lots of doom, lots of darkness, so it was what we were expected. That didn't blow me away, but
it was a worthy trailer for possibly a worthy sequel, but I don't know if we're going to get one better than Days of Future Past, because Days of Future Past just did excel and doing a fantastic X-Men movie.
And The Legend of Tarzan, that trailer itself just looks like a Tarzan movie, but directed by the guy who did Harry Potter. So whether that'll actually turn out
which one that did Harry Potter, because there's been 7 of them.
David Yates, the last two, Harry Potter, the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2.
Okay, I wasn't sure which one it was.
Yeah, he was the one who helmed them ones. So yeah, we'll see.
And
he was involved in Pan.
And to top it all off, the last trailer that I actually saw today in the cinema, guess what it was?
Pass.
Cop Out 2. No, not Cop Out 2. Not Cop Out 2. Drive Along 2, whatever it is. Yeah.
The one with
Kevin Hart. Not Kevin Hart. Kevin. Yeah.
Ride Along.
Ride Along. That's the one. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks awful. And the last trailer that I saw before coming onto the show was for the remake of Martyrs. The American remake of the brilliant French Pascal Laugier.
It's an abundantly lacking original premise trailers selection out at the moment, isn't it? It's not good in that regard, but
yeah, let's just say that if you're a fan and like of the Pascal Laugier Martyrs, you look upon the American remake in disgust. Because there's a director who I know, Eric England, who's done a couple of brilliant films, including Contracted and Madison County. He was supposed to direct the film, and it would have been in very good hands if he managed to do that. Whereas in fact they've got people who directed a horror film called Extraterrestrial, which has possibly the stupidest sort of like, you know, when the fake camera stuff, the found footage stuff, it has a camera that falls from space and manages to survive in that movie. So it's from that directors, and it looks like they've just gone, you know what, Hostel had loads of torture in it, let's just do exactly the same. So they didn't look on Martyrs and didn't get exactly what Martyrs was about. They just thought, torture, why not? And it proves that it's getting limited release as well, so I hate them for remaking that. But the UK box of there's a couple of bits of news that I've got down here. Charles Dance is supposed to have got a mystery role in Paul Feig's Ghostbusters.
Is it going to be are they going to tie it in with something else like Dracula or Victor Frankenstein?
Yeah, I don't know, but there's that. And
Sorry,
one other thing that I saw, which I thought was an interesting thing, but if we go into discussion territory with this, we could be here for quite a while, but a study is being carried out by the Directors Guild of America that shows that a very low 6.4% of directors in Hollywood are female. And of those 6.4%, only 1.3% were ethnic minorities. Which is an insane statistic.
Yeah.
It's even less in television. So it just shows you that how bad the gap is between females and males in America, in Hollywood. The actors-wise, the actresses are starting to get a little bit of a foothold.
Yeah.
But they still get nowhere near the amount of plaudits and the amount of praise and the amount of money that male actors get. Director-wise, it's even worse. You would have thought that the Catherine Bigelow winning the Oscar would have pushed that forward even more, when it's not the case.
No, so, I used to get as well there are some female directors who did direct films some years back and have now gone into TV, if they've gone into anything at all, because of the fact that movies, I think, have been harder, at least in TV, because it's the thing that it's in TV there are so many things being done and it's on such a quick schedule. If they can find anyone who's competent enough to do it, a lot of the time they'll get in there, and then they just end up having to stay there because they will struggle to get sort of funding to be able to do something bigger.
Yeah, and we were hoping that with directors like Catherine Hardwicke, Diablo Cody, even the Soska sisters would have done something for that, when in fact it seems like Catherine Hardwicke, who did the first Twilight movie, is sort of like gone back into the background, and she's got a horror movie coming out. Diablo Cody, she did a couple of films including Juno and Jennifer's Body, and then she's gone on a bit of the weird side as well. The Soska sisters now seem to be directing movies for WWE, which is not the way you should go. That's sort of like a back step for them.
You have people like Sofia Coppola, used to be Mimi Fleeder, who used to be sort of directing films, is now doing some TV but not much. I don't think. I think she's kind of maybe struggling with things. I don't know if maybe she's decided not to do anymore, but I don't think when I last looked in on to see where she was, because I was watching The Peacemaker a while ago, and I thought, where's Mimi Fleeder? I haven't heard anything from her for quite a while, and I looked up and she'd done some TV work but not much.
And the worst one is when these female directors get sort of like lumbered with female, like very sexist female films. You look at Catherine Bigelow. She was once rumoured to be directing the new Tomb Raider movie, a hypersexualized video game female character, and so that does not help. She's there to make gritty movies, not to make people just drool over the character on screen. And so, yeah, like I said, we'll just end that there, because we could be here for quite a while with that kind of discussion, and we'll go on to the UK box office top 10. So at number 10, a very female-centric movie in Carol.
I haven't been able to see this. I don't know if you have it yet or not, but I did want to try and see it, but it came down to a choice of, on one day I was going to the cinema and I wanted to see this, but I also wanted to see The Dressmaker, which I finally managed to do, because it was a choice of seeing this or... It was the last showing, actually literally the last showing of The Dressmaker before it was going out of the cinema, so I made the choice of go for The Dressmaker. I'll see Carol when I can. I gotta say, Dressmaker, the one with Kate Winslet, Australian film, I absolutely loved it. I really, really loved it. I thought it was witty, it was funny, it was a very dark film. It got very twisted at certain parts, and it did elicit there's the whole 6 laugh count, which is a film has to be considered genuinely funny to pass 6 decent laughs all the way through it. I got through 6 laughs very easily in it, very early on, and enjoyed the heck out of it. And it's a shame that it didn't go in higher in the top 10 when it did. It's now out. I'm not sure where it is, but it's not in the top 10 after dropping out last week. And I'm kind of annoyed it's not done better, because I would have loved it to do, because there was definitely an audience for it. Because I saw it the last showing, and it was fairly well packed, not solidly packed, but a fair number of people in there, and it was enjoyed by all. It was brilliant. And I mean, I messaged you after I'd seen it saying I finally managed to see it, and I have another film to try and whittle down for my best 10 of the year, because I think it may make it its way into that.
Yeah, I reviewed The Dressmaker. I think you weren't here the week when I reviewed it. And I really liked it. I thought Judy Davis is fantastic.
She was fantastic, yeah. But Kate Winslet was brilliant in it, and it was funny. There was, and I mean, you got to admit probably as well that some of the funniest things as well went to Hugo Weaving, who's so. I mean, he's obviously channeling his character that he played from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yeah.
But it's a very, 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 very odd performance, which is just it gets a laugh every single time.
I love the fact that they also kept the movie to a very small scope, rather than expanding on the film itself. It never fully leaves that town. There is only one scene near to the end of the film where it does that, where it leaves the town, but it never decides to expand on everything. And I love the fact that it was very... you can't even call it a town. The amount of buildings that is in there is minute. So it's a tiny society of like about 30 people maximum, and so the humour in it, though, it can get pretty dark.
Yeah,
it gets really twisted and weird, but it
it
is a good film.
It's a great film. Carol, unfortunately, we haven't seen, and the thing that's annoying is it's number 10, which means it will, well, unless there are Australians, because we've not got a lot of films coming out in the next couple of weeks, but I don't think it's got the number of screens now to be able to go up the charts. So we'll try and see it, but by the time we do, it'll probably be out of the chart.
Yeah, my cinema, no chance, because it's only showing 2 showings today, Monday, so they're gone already, and 2 showings tomorrow, and they're one very early in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and that's it. That's it. It's off out of my cinema as of tomorrow, and I'm working tomorrow, so there's no chance of me getting to see it, unfortunately. I have seen the movie at number 9, Krampus,
which I haven't yet as well, and I do want to see it.
Yeah, directed by Michael Dougherty, who did Trick or Treat. I adored this film. I've seen a lot of sniffy reviews regarding the movie, saying that it's terrible, it's not scary, it's not funny, it's not dark. It's not scary. It definitely is dark. It definitely is funny as well, and it reminds me of Gremlins. And any movie that reminds me of Gremlins, which is my ultimate Christmas movie, one of my ultimate Christmas movies, it definitely needs to be on high on my list, and it has made its way into my top 10 of the year, because I just... Also, Michael Dougherty sticking with practical effects.
I wanted to ask as well about it, because I still haven't seen it yet, but I've heard lots of people mentioning things like Tremors and things like Gremlins and stuff like that. I've not heard, and I thought I would have heard with something like this from the trailer, no one has mentioned Critters. Is that not... Would you not think it's connections with that?
No, it's got more in common with Gremlins. It's got the humour of Gremlins. Critters was sort of like... In a weird... It's weird seeing this, considering that the first Critters movie is a 15, but Critters is sort of like a childish version of Gremlins. Because it regressed badly, the Critters series.
Oh, yeah, as it went on.
Then you definitely know it's going to... And Leonardo DiCaprio on the 3rd film. But yeah, it regressed really badly. I think it's got more in common with Gremlins. That's the reason why Critters is not mentioned. And to be honest, unless you know your horror in a way, not very many people outside of that would know what Critters is. So, at number 8 is a new entry for Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, I didn't think this was a great film at all. I have a lot of issues with it. I think that there's great performances in there from Daniel Radcliffe and from I think his name now.
McAvoy.
Yes, James McAvoy. I think there are great performances there, but it's a film which is very, very sort of underbalanced. It's very, very doesn't know where to go. Sort of very sort of scattergun effect. And it just doesn't come together, and it's trying to do a new thing with the new version of the events of Frankenstein, but it doesn't really do anything much. Doesn't do it any justice.
Yeah, it's not very good at all. Number 7 is The Lady in the Van,
which I have seen finally. I have to say, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was absolutely brilliant, as I think a lot of people have made it out to be. I think that it has got a bit of a problem with the narrative, the way it's done. If you have the character who is a writer, who it's a nice idea the way you have him filmed as playing himself sort of in his room as the part of his brain that's the writer, and then him actually going out and doing things which is the part of his brain that's the doer, and those two, that they sort of discussions with each other, and you see that. But I think that was actually very, very poorly misjudged and poorly handled at times. I found it actually quite distracting and annoying, and actually a bit confusing in a couple of scenes. Maggie Smith is absolutely brilliant in the role, and it's a solid film, but it is, first of all, it is far too long. Secondly, it's a film that kind of waddles on a bit for too much in certain bits, and it's a thing that it shouldn't feel. At the end of it, you go kind of like, oh, it's a downer, and also that the ending is. It literally is kind of like, it's similar to the last night, where the night before, where you have them, it's all the way through, and then all of a sudden a weird thing happens at the end, and this has a similar thing towards the end that makes you go kind of, hang on a minute, what?
And number 6 is Black Mass,
which is a film that is basically like the real life story of version of The Departed that actually happened with Whitey Bulger in Brooklyn. He's a mob boss. He's played in the film by Johnny Depp. Now the thing is that since having seen Black Mass, I have seen a documentary, The United States versus Whitey Bulger, which is all about the whole thing of Whitey Bulger being prosecuted and the whole thing that happened after that. And the thing is, given that this was a while ago and that the film has been made, and then the film is all focused on the whole things leading up to that, it's to be a bit spoilerish, but not. It does end with a on-screen note saying what happened afterwards and how Whitey Bulger was arrested and stuff. I really wish that there had been an extra 20 or 30 minutes on the end of it to do with the whole court stuff and the things that happened after that, because the courts stuff and the whole things that were going on and the whole prosecution of everything and him was actually really, really where it started to get interesting. It's a solid performance film from Johnny Depp. It's a solid direction film from Scott, I forget his name again, because I did love what he did with Out the Furnace. This isn't that level, but it's a good film, but it's let down by some poorly decided scenes, by being too long with scenes that should have been cut out and extra stuff put on at the end, and by really distracting makeup on Johnny Depp.
At number 5 is a new entry for Christmas with the Coopers.
Not seen it.
Yeah, from what we can gather, we definitely don't want to see it. It's another one of those New Year's Day kind of films, the ones where portmanteau in a way where they get tons and tons of actors to be in the movie just to think that they can carry it, when in fact it makes it a bit of a convoluted, horrible mess from what we've heard.
It's a Christmas cash cow.
pretty much. It's one of those movies where you see it at number 5 now, even though there is only Star Wars coming out on Thursday, and then you've got the Peanuts movies. By the time, actually, the Peanuts movie will not be included in the box office top 10, just like Sisters will not be included in the box office top 10, which is out tomorrow, because its actual official opening day was Saturday, so it's classed as a preview weekend all the way up to the official weekend takings from Friday. So I doubt we'll see Christmas with the Coopers in the top 10 next week.
It's not going to challenge Star Wars. There's no way it's going to.
I've got a feeling that a lot of these kids' films, the ones on the Saturdays and Sundays, might even creep them way into the top 10 and push movies like Christmas with the Coopers out. And number 4 is Bridge of Spies,
which is a great Steven Spielberg film, which is slightly subdued. It is more along the lines of things like the Terminal, where you have it's all sort of the drama. There's not so much of kind of the spectacle of the things that happen. You do have scenes that look very good, with the whole thing of like the Berlin Wall being built at one point very early on, and some beautifully done scenes. But the thing is, what's great here is that the whole thing of it's a drama. It has tension, there is threat, but there's also little bits of humour and comedy in there as well. So it when it needs to, it does know how to break the tension and levy it. Tom Hanks is very, very good in it, but it is Mark Rylance who is it Mark Rylance? Rylance, who is really the standout one in I think he'll get a supporting role nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and deservedly so, because he is absolutely brilliant in the film, and it's a solid Steven Spielberg film, which I think kind of sadly just ticks all the boxes for a Steven Spielberg film. Not to say that's a bad thing, but I mean he could have done a little bit more with it.
Yeah, number 3 is Spectre,
which we said plenty of about. It's not the best Bond film, it's not the worst, but it's definitely hitting below its weight, I think.
Yeah, number 2 is The Good Dinosaur.
Still not had a chance to see this yet.
Yeah, I have it. I'm not going to mention the previous Pixar movie that was out this year. I'm just going to let The Good Dinosaur rest on its own laurels. Animation-wise, it is Pixar. Pixar are fantastic with their animation. Yeah, in about 10 years' time, it might date it slightly, but they are still fantastic with animation. And it has got a few nice, heartfelt scenes in it. One specifically which involves the 2 main characters and seeing what their family is, and they're just drawing circles. It's a silent scene, and I think Pixar handles silence brilliant, because they just let the music speak for it and the visuals speak for the scene itself, rather than having any kind of character interaction on there. And so, for all it's got those going for it, it just feels a very mundane, boring, very simple storyline for what we used to see from Pixar. And so they were picking themselves up a lot more. You can see the reason why this was a movie that was delayed badly. It's just a pity that it's come out near to the end of the year, and with such more superior animated films this year as well, it's one that's going to pretty much fall on the wayside. And early indications are seeing that The Good Dinosaur is going to be Pixar's first biggest loss. So it's not helping in a way, but it's not as bad as a lot of people have made it out to be. Just don't expect it to be the upper echelon of Pixar stuff. And so remaining at number 1, and it is still going to be number 1 at the UK box office when the new top 10 is released. Spoilers, because I got the email through a little bit earlier on from Lionsgate saying yes, the movie has spent the 4th week at number 1. It's The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2.
Yeah, I mean it's not that it doesn't deserve to be there, but the other episodes, the other parts of the Hunger Games films deserve to be there better, deserve to be there more. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the whole thing with the Hunger Games being split into the 2 parts for the last part, it doesn't work. They should have made a single 3-hour film and it would have been a much better thing. I think that it is, of the 2 parts, this is the weaker part when it's on its own, but when it's with the other one, it becomes a lot stronger with part 1. So if you are going to see it and you haven't seen it yet, watch part 1 beforehand, then go straight into it and see it as a kind of a double feature all in one go, and you'll get the most out of it. It is a film which has far too many endings though. I mean, you can't say you walk out at the end, but if you cut a lot of them off, you'd walk out and go, that was a much more solid experience than the way you come out now, which is go, that was a solid experience, but I'm tired from the ending. I mean, it's a worthwhile conclusion to the series, if slightly disappointing. But I really think they kind of did the best from what I've heard. I don't know the books, I haven't read them yet, but from what I hear, they've done the best they could with what they had from the books, because the books are supposedly, the third one is the worst one.
It's just a pity, because this could have been a trilogy or quadrilogy now, unfortunately, that would have been sort of like remembered, very much like the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings films, not The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a rubbish trilogy, but the Lord of the Rings films, and so it's not going to be like that, unfortunately. It's going to be remembered for its box office takings, because it's taken somewhere in the region of around about $600 million worldwide, which, for a last film, well done. And the series itself, I think it's clocked around about $2.5 billion overall, which by the looks of things, Star Wars might actually make that just on its own. But for a series, 4-film series, which very few people knew what the Hunger Games was before it started, that's actually pretty decent, and so Lionsgate are probably congratulating themselves. From a movie series that would have cost them around about 7 to around about 900 million to make and distribute and advertise, they've made around about double their budget back. So well done to them on that front. It's just a pity that it goes out on a bit of a damp squib, rather than something where we could have went, you know what, that's going to be remembered in 5 years' time. It's not going to be remembered, unfortunately. Now, the cinema section is all yours, so you just take it away. Whatever film you want to do first from the 3 that you've seen.
Okay, let's do By the Sea first, which is written and directed by Angelina Jolie Pitt, or... Go on.
Angelina Jolie Pitt.
No, go on, you were going to say...
And starring Brad Jolie Pitt.
Yes, exactly. It's a drama which centres around a married couple played by them in the 1970s in France. They are Americans, and they've gone there for a sort of a holiday, a kind of a working holiday for him, because he is a struggling writer who has kind of had an issue with sort of writer's block. While they're there, it becomes obvious and apparent very early on after they're arriving that they are sort of becoming more and more estranged from each other. They're very distant. There is something to this, but it's not sort of explained until later on for sort of reasons of sort of the uncomfortableness between them as why that's happening. But things are sort of not so great with them until they start sort of meeting this other couple in the room next to them, played by Melanie Laurent and Melvin Papard. The film sort of centers then around them sort of having meetings between them, and still not having the best of relations between them two, start to then have even more kind of illicitness to them between them and their neighbours in the room next door, when the character played by Angelina Jolie finds a hole in the wall that lets her actually see through into the room next door and spy on them when things are going on, including sort of sexual encounters. It's a film that sort of focus on, because we don't have a clip for this. There's very little clips in the cinema section this week because a lot of them haven't been released. But with this film, you have the whole thing of that there is a lot going on with these characters. You have she is sort of very much kind of depressed and stuck in and sort of just wants to be left alone in the room, and then when she's not, she starts sort of engaging with the couple next door for her own sort of nefarious reasons. He is very much sort of blocked because of the fact of that this things that happened in the past between them, things that are still going on between them, and this sort of animosity between them, and he's also then trying to come up with something new to write about, and ends up sort of going out and meeting the locals, where he starts to become fascinated with a barman that he meets there, who talks with him, and he gets stories from that he himself even admits would be great material for anyone except for him, because he's blocked and cannot write at the moment. And it's got this whole thing of the two of them and their neighbours and all these things going on. But the thing that's a problem is that the movie has such it's so debilitated by its running time and its pacing that it really just drags down. It's a 2-hour film that does not need to be 2 hours long. It really does need to be reined in a bit. It is a film that is for potentially spoiler reasons, but I'm not going to say what. I think Angelina Jolie has put a lot of her own heart and soul into parts of this, possibly in a unintentionally sort of cathartic way. There are elements in it that are very, very sort of relevant to her, I think, and there's things in it that I think in a way it's a bit overly indulgent, and I think that in some ways because I've seen reviews that have been very, very harsh on it, and I've seen words such as boring thrown around, which is very, very rare to hear from a critic on a film, and I disagree, but not entirely, with that word being used for this, because I think it's actually an intentional decision by Angelina Jolie Pitt to put a sort of a boredom into the film to try and establish this, not only with the audience watching it, but with the audience feeling it as well, to give you that feeling, that sense of the film. And I think that is a bit of a faux pas. I think it works, but it's also a detriment to the film, because it does mean that by the time you're only in sort of an hour into the film, you do wish that it would hurry up and get on with it. I think it's very well directed. I think Angelina Jolie definitely has a good eye for directing. I just think that when it's something that she's directing in her own work, because she's the one who's written this, that she maybe has been a bit too self-indulgent with it. Should have maybe reined it in a little bit, and it would have made for a better film.
Do you think that it's a bit of a bad idea for husband and wife to actually sort of like start together in a film? Because it's not just Angelina Jolie Pitt and Brad Jolie Pitt, then who's done that. You look at what Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck did. You look at other films. Judd Apatow has been in a film with his wife and directed his wife. Do you think it sort of like harms the film more so because it's really difficult to get the chemistry across? Because it might seem a lot false. This is sort of like also looking at it's sort of like the antidote to what Mr. and Mrs. Smith was. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was the frantic kind of film, whereas this one is the more laid back one, but it still starred them both together.
Yeah, I think, I mean, mentioning Judd Apatow, we're talking about things like This Is 40, which he directed, he wrote, and it starred. He actually didn't star in it, but his wife starred in it.
With these kids as well.
Yeah, and I do think that, because I mean, it's the same issue with that, because that film was 2.5 hours long, which was way too long and way too indulgent. And this is a similar kind of thing with it being too long, and so there's a point, I think, that during editing that she potentially struggled with doing it, and I don't mean that as in, because we were saying earlier about women directors, I don't mean that as being a problem with her being a woman and being a director. I think she does a fantastic job in the film, but I just think when it comes to editing, she suffers from the same problems that Judd Apatow does, in that she's too close to the project to be able to objectively say, this is dragging here, cut out 5 minutes there, cut out this bit here, streamline it a little bit, this would play better. There's a scene. There is a really good scene where the two of them have had an argument, and he goes out somewhere, and you see it cut back and forth between her sitting in a room and she's just sitting sort of sobbing and upset, and he is sitting somewhere else outside, and you get this whole thing of that he's thinking, should I go back there, and he's sitting there, no I won't, kind of a thing, and she's sitting there as in like she needs him to be there but he's not. And if that had been done with them being inside one room and outside the room, not out of somewhere else, it would have been made it be a lot more closer. It could have been a lot more quicker edited. It could have been a lot less sort of drawn out as in the film. And it's an example of things like that just a little bit of tightening up here, a little bit of cut here, a little bit of changes to this could have happened. It just needed a little bit of streamlining, and it would not have had such an exhaustive watching experience that it does, because it just means that by the end of the film you are literally exhausted from it, and you wish it had been 20 minutes shorter.
One more quick question before you move on. Do you think it's a bit weird, the fact that it's got two of the biggest actors in the world and the film itself is getting such a small release?
No, because it does have that small
it has got a small release, considering My Cinema is not showing it at all. and I have to go a little while out of my way to go and see it. But considering the fact that it's released on a week where there is nothing out pretty much, because the fact that everybody is waiting for Star Wars, you would have still thought that cinema screens, even the smaller cinema screens, would have had enough space to show an Angelina Jolie and a Brad Pitt movie. So even if it is a small drama, they've shown small dramas in the past where they've had people who nobody recognised in it. Yet this has got two of the biggest actors in the world in the film, but it's not getting a bigger release than you might think.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is probably the budget as well, because I don't think it was made on a very big budget. I think it was very much made to a very limited budget. But I think that then it's been a case of it's a film that the distributors have seen it and they've gone, okay, we'll put some money into putting it in and getting it out to cinemas, but I don't think it's worth putting out there. I mean, it's definitely got the big actors in it, but I don't think it's got the big draw that the actors have in it because of the type of film it is.
It's a bit silly, but your next film?
Sisters, which is directed by Jason Moore. It's written by Paula Pell. It is the story of the sisters Maura and Kate, played by Amy Pholer and Tina Fay, who at the start of the film, Amy Pholer's character gets a call from her parents saying that they have decided that they are going to sell their house, which the two of them grew up in as kids. They are obviously against this, do not want to be involved in this, but are basically forced to return back home to the house, which has been completely emptied apart from their room because it's full of all their stuff, and they've basically been given instructions by their mother and father to empty the house out, empty their room out, so it can be sold and everything can be sorted out for the parents to basically pay off their condo. Here's a clip.
Oh man, who called the cops?
Having a pretty big party, huh?
Oh, is 500 people too much?
Popo! Popo! Oh, somebody call a stripper? You gonna take your clothes off for us? You can't come in here without the judge signing the thing. This is where I live. This is our house. Yep. This is where we live, okay? And this is our property for the next 24 hours. A lot of sex is gonna happen. A lot of sexy times. You can't stop that. Last time I checked, sex wasn't against the law. As much as you would love that, wouldn't you? Won't you step off, Blue? Don't you know I'm loco?
Now we know that.
Officer Donuts, why don't you go back into your squad car and go save a kitten from a tree? Because these pussies are doing fine. So wrap your mind around that, Captain Crunch. Capiche?
So as you can hear from that, they do the thing of having a party, things get a little bit out of hand, and as it goes on from there, as you can imagine, it's a whole thing of that you've got this whole thing of the sisters have different personalities. You have one sister who is completely uptight and always, is the kind of, the one that would be the safety or the safe driver and everything. The other one who is the complete let loose wraparound, has a kid, and there's no responsibility, takes no responsibility of things, and it's one of these kind of, buddy films of the two of them getting together and everything going wrong, and as you can imagine, it all ends up finally coming together in the end, and it's that typical kind of thing. And there are some laughs to be had in there. There are some moments that it goes to some extremes. I will say this, it does never actually go to a point where it never does the whole Hangover absolutely going far too far and being disgusting moments, especially sort of Hangover 2 similar sort of things. It actually has some sort of dignity to it, despite some very undignified scenes. And the thing is that it's a film that I have seen great reviews, I've seen average reviews and everything. I'm one of the average to lower reviews. I did laugh a few times in it. I didn't really laugh sort of the maximum number of times. There were times when I sat there and I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe I should be laughing at that, but I'm not, because it just didn't work for me. I will say this, probably the funniest thing I've seen is that in the last 2 weeks I've seen now 2 films with John Cena in it, in comedy moments, in supporting roles, and he was actually genuinely quite funny, funnier than the main cast in both films. It's a film that, talking of Judd Apatow earlier, the funniest thing is at points it does that whole thing of having a joke that goes on for far too long, and again and again and again and again and again. that I thought, is this being directed by Judd Apatow? Just cut this scene already and get on to the next one. And again, the whole thing of a 2-hour film doesn't need to be 2 hours. Would have been a lot better without it. There is in particular, I mean, things like a joke where they're in a nail salon, and there's a whole thing about one of the girls there who is Korean and has got a name badge with the name Vicky on it. They say, Vicky's not really your name, is it? It's like, what's your Korean name? And the woman says to her what it is, and she cannot pronounce the name properly back to her, and she says it back to her, and she's like, several times, again and again and again, and it just stopped being funny after the first couple of times, and it just literally starts to almost step into that whole kind of racism thing almost, and it's things like that that really drag the film down, because you just sat there and you're kind of going, well, you know, that was a joke that was potentially good, and you just went and threw it away by using it again and again and again. And it's a shame, because there are moments in this that are good setups and good things in it, and scenes. There's a great scene involving Amy Poehler's character and a guy and a ballerina statue music box thing, which was one of the scenes that got the biggest laugh from me. But it's just, if the rest of the film had been like that, it would have been a great comedy. It's just very, very average to below average for the most of the time, and for the 2-hour running time, which just stretches it out far too long.
Okay, then, and your final film then?
Hector, which is written and directed by Jake Gavin, stars Peter Mullen as Hector, the title character, who is a man who is homeless, lives on the streets, lives actually at a kind of a motorway stop with a couple of his other friends who are homeless. He is leading up to Christmas time, going to sort of look at certain things, and ends up having an injury with a leg that he walks with a crutch on one leg. Goes to a hospital, has to have an appointment that he's got to do there, but has to come back in sort of a couple of weeks for this operation. In the meantime, over the Christmas period, what he's got to do is travel from Glasgow down to London, where there's this sort of shelter that he goes to every year, where he's sort of taken in, given a place to stay for a couple of weeks, and food and Christmas and everything with a lot of other homeless people. And it's basically just following his journey as he does that, while at the same time deciding to try and sort of make contact with his family. He has a sister somewhere, and he has a brother somewhere that he's trying to make contact with, and sort of make amends for a past between them. And it's a film, again, we don't have a clip for this because it's a very small film release. It's a film that is showing the whole thing of that there are moments where people are horrible to the homeless, and there are moments where people are kind and helpful to them. There's a scene where someone has sort of offered him a meal at a cafe, and she makes him a meal and everything, gives him a cup of tea. She goes, hang on a minute, I'll be right back. Goes into the kitchen. He goes and pulls a cup of tea out, pulls sugar into the tea, which breaks the thing, and all the sugar goes everywhere. So he goes to get a cloth behind the counter to wipe it up, which happens to be next to the till. She comes back and sees him and thinks he's trying to rob the place, and it's things like that. And it's quite an interesting moral film to kind of, you know, show you the whole thing of that not everything about a homeless person is as it seems, and yet there are other aspects about the homeless person, which is, you know, how he has to go at certain points where he dries his socks in a bathroom on the hand dryer sort of thing, you know, and you see the things he has to go through his everyday life to basically just live and survive and get on, and the struggles of that. It's actually a really quite sort of emotionally grasping film, and largely thanks to Peter Mullen's performance, who is very, very good in the film. It's a very kind of unforgiving role, really unflattering role for him, the normal sort of thing, and he plays it sort of a little bit more weaker than you would normally see him, I think, as well. And it's a really, really nice sort of drama centering around what is potentially an unpleasant topic, but managed to come off as a very, very good, if sort of heartwarming drama.
Yeah, so I'm just slightly distracted about the idiots on Facebook sticking lightsabers on their profile picture. I should actually be listening to your review rather than looking at some stupid dorks going way too over the top with Star Wars. People are really going to hate me next week when we do finally get round to reviewing the movie. But yeah, the Hector sounds like my cup of tea. I like Peter Mullen anyway. I think he's a fantastic actor.
It is a fantastic film. It is a really good film. I think you can kind of guess where I'm going with this one for end of the show sort of points. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the thing is, it's only about 86 minutes, something like that. It's not a long film, so it also doesn't outstay its welcome. It's a very simple. It is a kind of a small indie thing. But it's definitely something. It's one of those films that is a small film, but obviously it's a small film because someone has made it with heart and with an interest and with a story that they want to put on the screen, as opposed to something that someone's gone, we want to do a film which loads of people will want to go and see. Give us loads of money so we can do it.
Yeah, rather than completely overstuff the movie, which a lot of movies seem to be falling into that trap.
Yeah.
A lot as of late. But that's it for your cinema releases of this week. We'll be back in a moment with the DVD section of the show where it's my turn.
From page to screen. So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look, but sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, now that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting and about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. People be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Hello and welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show, to the DVD and Blu-ray releases in the home release section, where we'll be going through, Stuart will be going through these movies.
Yeah, Nate Wolf falls for Cara Delevingne, the woman with the weirdest eyebrows in the world. In comedy romantic drama Paper Towns, we have Josh Trank's take on the Fantastic Four. Yeah. And then reboot series from the National Lampoons with Vacation.
Yeah, before that though, as usual, the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with Jurassic World.
Yeah, it's creeping out now of the top 10. It hasn't made a bigger splash of the DVD top 10 as it has in the UK box office top 10. Nobody could predicted how well the film did. It's a decent film.
We're going to skip over a couple with Kevin Bridges, A Whole Different Story, live performance at number 9. Mrs. Brown's Boys live, How Now Mrs. Brown at number 8. Yep.
That thing, whatever you want to call it.
Michael McIntyre, Happy and Glorious at number 7. All because obviously the Christmas period and you get these released for Christmas. And at number 6, new entry from The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Come on, you've actually got to say it correctly.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I'm doing that once and that's it.
Yeah, it's the man from the stupid title. Yeah, it's nowhere near as fun as the TV series is. This is a movie where it all seems to just more concentrate on the costumes and how pretty everybody looks rather than what's actually happening on screen, which is annoying because it could have been an entertaining film, but in fact you've got Armie Hammer who just hasn't a clue what he's doing with Ilya Kuryakin, and then you've got just everything else about the film just doesn't work. Even the inclusion of Alicia Vikander, who is just can distract anybody from a really bad film, it doesn't help the movie at all. So the film itself it's just boring, which it's not what we were expecting.
I oddly enjoyed it, but I mean, what I'm reminded of thinking about it is I'm reminded of the film version of The Saint that was made with Val Kilmer, which is a very simple. Again, yeah, exactly. It has that response with a lot of people, especially people that knew the series. But I really liked it because it was a quirky, different thing, and it's another one. It's one of these origin films that sets up the whole premise, whereas the series was just there was never any setup. It just was. So
Roger Moore was the one who was originally in the TV series. The
same, yeah.
So how can Val Kilmer absolutely destroy Batman and also destroy Roger Moore as well?
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Number 5 is Minions.
Yeah, I love Minions. I really need to actually probably pick this up as one of my films for Christmas.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay. Ant-Man is at number 4.
Yeah, I won't be picking this up for a film for myself at Christmas because I'm not a Marvel hater. Or I'm not on the side of like Mark from Following the Nerd who gets stick for being a Marvel hater and a DC hater. I feel sorry for him. I'm just a hater of both. So if people say, "Oh, you're a Marvel hater," yeah, I can agree with that at times. "Oh, you're a DC hater," yep, I can agree with that at times. Because I don't care, to be honest. I put them on pretty much equal footing. This one, it's not bad. It's not as bad as some of these churned out Marvel stuff of Fears 2, where they were very weak at times, the films themselves. But yeah, it's not bad. It's a good sort of like stepping point or good foundation for an Ant-Man series.
New entry as well for Pixels at number 3.
Not a new entry, it's been in for a couple of weeks, but you've seen the Hateful Six or whatever it's called, the Ridiculous Six.
Ridiculous Six, yeah.
Yeah, please don't watch it 6.
Well,
which is
actually,
Adam Sandler's 4th film this year.
You know, the weird thing is, it's actually fun. It's ridiculous and stupid and terrible in ways, but I have to admit, I did enjoy it and I did laugh at it quite a bit as well. It had some good laughs in it.
Have you seen some of the reviews? A lot of critics absolutely despising the film. I need to find... Is it on for like an hour and a half, 2 hours maximum? Somewhere in that region.
I think it's actually about 2 hours. Is the thing.
I need to find maybe 2 hours this week to try and watch it, because technically we can include it in our top 10.
Well, I mean, put it this way. I would actually say I enjoyed it more than Pixels.
So I'll have to give it a watch if I can find.
You'll definitely enjoy it. As much as I haven't seen it, I think you'll definitely enjoy it more than The Cobbler, from what I hear.
I despise The Cobbler because The Cobbler made me angry. But I've got a bit of spare time on Friday because I am going to see Star Wars on Thursday. So I've got a bit of, because I'm off work on Friday, so I've got a bit of spare time now. I might actually make an excuse to catch up on a couple of films that I might have missed out, and my top 10s might change just slightly, so I'll give it a watch. But yeah, Pixels, it's fine. It's not fine, but it's the best Adam Sandler movie this year from what I've seen.
Inside Out is at number 2.
We said absolutely everything we can about Inside Out. It's just brilliant.
New entry straight in at number 1, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Yeah, Christopher McQuarrie's first Mission Impossible film. He's directing the next one. It starts off very well. It just decides to languish itself from there on in. It doesn't go into bad territory. Near to the end, it starts to creep into boredom territory, which a Mission Impossible film should never do that. It should always be about the excitement, about the stunts that Ethan Hunt is actually doing. But it starts to slowly get towards that area there. It's just, I think it's a bit of a weak film. At times, it just lacks a lot of the impact, a lot of the oomph that you expect from this kind of series, and it felt very much like it was trying to be like Spectre, and Spectre was boring, and in my opinion, it's a movie you don't want to copy.
I do think it's very much thinking about, like, in things of a franchise like the Fast and Furious films. The series has peaked with the previous film. Fast and Furious peaked with the 5th one, 6th one, the 7th one have not been the same level. This is the same with the Mission Impossible films, with Ghost Protocol peaked as the best one, and then this one is just slightly below that, but it still struggles. It doesn't reach the same heights, but it is worthy of the franchise and of the name.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on and see if we agree on any of the 3 films you're doing this evening.
Have you seen
all 3 of them? Yes.
So you have seen Paper Towns.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you thought of it.
Well, considering that I think it actually has a lot of connections with a certain film that you will probably, I think, reference during your review, I think that it's a film that you'll like, and I did enjoy it. I had been looking forward to it. Never got to see it until after a long time. I kept missing it, but I really, really enjoyed it.
Well, it's a very simple premise of a movie. It's directed by Jake Schreier, and it stars, as I said, Nate Wolff, who plays Quentin, the older version of Quentin, or Q to his friends. And it all centres around an infatuation that he has on Cara Delevingne, the character of Margot, in there. And he's sort of like, he was friends with her, she moves in across the street, he befriends her, and then all of a sudden over time, they stop becoming friends, they stop talking to each other. Q has his friends played by Austin Abrams and Justice Smith, and so he's got his sort of like little clique where they're a bit of a geek in a way, and more so he's going away from Margot. Then all of a sudden one night, Margot enters into his bedroom and this happens.
Margot? Margot, hey.
Look, I need to borrow your car.
What?
Your car?
I don't have a car.
I mean your mom's car.
I...
Also, I need to drive the car because I have 9 things I need to do tonight, and more than half of them require a getaway driver.
What are you, is he committing felonies?
Ooh, remind me, is breaking and entering a felony?
Yes. What?
Well, okay. I gotta go, so are you in or out?
Why can't you just get one of your underlings to help you out, like Jace or Lacey or Becca?
They're part of the problem, actually.
What problem?
There are 9 problems.
And your boyfriend is one of them?
Ex-boyfriend.
And so straight after that, preempted myself a little bit there before the car decides to screech out of the driveway. But straight after that, they go on a bit of a mission where Margot tries to get revenge on a few people who have battered her. And then all of a sudden, she disappears. And Quentin is wondering what's happened to her. And so it's up to him, along with the help of his friends, to try and track her down with supposedly some clues that she's left behind. And so the film sort of like floats and floats between different genres within the romantic genre itself. And it goes to comedy at times, and then it goes back to drama, and then it goes to sort of like a road trip movie, and then back to the romantic side of stuff. And so it jumps between stuff, and in my opinion, that's its weakness. The section which involves them taking the journey out to try and hunt down for Margot, that's the weak part of the film. That's the part where you might think it might be the strongest, because it is him in a way bonding with his friends again. It is his last trip before he leaves school and then goes off to university. But in fact, it just becomes a typical road movie, and it doesn't work. There are a couple of funny moments in that one, but I think the ultimate funny moment is when both when all 3 of them, Q, Ben, and Radar, have gone into this abandoned building, and they start singing the Pokemon theme tune to try and get some aware of some of the terror that they've gone in them. And I actually laughed at that scene. I thought that was really funny, because they were going hell for leather with that, to try and push themselves into a room where they don't want to go, and I found that quite funny. I just found the film itself lacking at times. Acting wise, it's fine. It's not going to win any awards for any brilliant acting. I think everybody handles their roles pretty well. It's just a very safe movie. It never treads any ground where it tries to be a bit sort of like out there a little bit, so it's too safe, and it has the road trip movie, the road trip part of it is lacking compared to the rest of the film itself. Overall though, it's a good film. It's not up there with the films which you think that I would get, that I would like.
Okay,
so,
I thought there was going to be a reference made to Stand By Me at some point of it though.
No, it has nothing in common with Stand By Me. So
Okay.
it definitely doesn't have anything in common with Stand By Me. It just never ever feels like Stand By Me at all. So it has Ansel Elgort, which it sort of like gives you a feeling of The Fault in Our Stars in a way. Little bits of that creep into it. And Ansel Elgort, like I said, he makes a fleeting appearance in the film itself, and so it's more in common with that rather than Stand By Me. But no way is it like Stand By Me. But it's a good film. That's the best it actually strives to be.
Okay, next film?
Fantastic Four. Josh Trank.
Okay.
No, I
Sorry.
really like Josh Trank's Chronicle. I thought it was a very well created science fiction film, not a found footage movie, but very well created one. It had some very smart ideas, and so he might have been the perfect director to pick on to do a reboot of the Fantastic Four. Sorry, you would have thought that the green tea would have actually helped my throat, but
it's making it worse instead, no?
Pretty much. Well, instead, what he's managed to do is ramshackle together a boring science fiction superhero movie, and we know the story of the Fantastic Four. It centers around Miles Teller's character, who plays Reed Richards, who's a bit of a brainiac in a way. He's brilliant with science. The kind of stuff that he's able to do at school is fantastic, and he creates a thing for the science fair in there, which gets him pretty much kicked out of school and pretty much destroys his hometown. You fast forward to when he's older and he gets accosted by somebody who's in charge of this company, who sees his talent, decides to bring him on board to try and come up with an experiment which enables him to teleport from one place where he's at to open a portal to pretty much Mars in a way. And so they're able to actually do that with the help of him. And this clip gives you a taste of what it's like when he's actually creating this machine.
Amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Amazing you didn't black out the entire Western Hemisphere. You basically ripped a hole in the fabric of space-time with unspec'd components and no supervision.
Yeah, that was an accident.
And if by accident you upped the power, you would have created a runaway reaction that opened a black hole and swallowed the entire planet.
Well, I'm glad that didn't happen.
And so in that clip there, you heard Kate Mara, who plays Sue Storm, and then going along for the ride is Michael B. Jordan, who plays Johnny Storm, and Jimmy Bell, who's Reed Richards' best friend in the film, who plays Ben Grimm. And then ultimately the thing after an accident happens, which gives them superhuman powers. So Reed Richards is able to stretch. He becomes Stretch Armstrong. And Michael B. Jordan lives up to his name of Johnny Storm. He's able to go into flames, but he never ever sees in the film flame on. I don't think so. No, not to my memory either. So he doesn't say that. And then Sue Storm, she's able to do the same kind of powers. So they've never tweaked around with the powers that they've had in that. But I wish they would have tweaked the film around a lot more, because it makes me hanker back to watching the original Fantastic Four film, because that was much more entertaining than this. This is just a mess. It's a movie that never gets going until sort of like the breakout in the secret lab, which in a way it's got a horror feel to it, and that works really well. But then it forgets that and then doesn't get going again until the last 15-20 minutes, when it throws in Toby Kebbell's character, who was in the film a lot, who's sort of like, he's looking at Reed Richards' work and sort of like, yeah, that's not how you should do it, thinks he's better than him. And then he ultimately becomes the bad guy of Victor Von Doom, or Dr. Doom as we know him as, in his bad guy form. And it then that's when it throws the bad guy into it in the last 20 minutes. And it's a rushed film at the end, but it's a slow film for everywhere else in the movie, and it just makes you question, what was Josh Trank thinking? And if you look at the production of the film itself, the trouble that Trank was having with the production team and the studio, you can see why, because he was supposedly through wobblies and fits and was moaning and shouting at people on set, and we don't know if that's true or not, or if this is fabrication from the production side of things, but this was just a car crash of a movie as it is, and so it doesn't hold well for the sequel, which was supposedly going to happen, and then it's been put on the back burner because of what's happened with Fantastic Four, because it was a flop in cinemas. And it's a shame, because Josh Trank's a really good director. You've got some really good actors in this. You've got a really bad film, though.
Yeah, it is just a complete train wreck of a film. It's a mess. It has no real conclusion. It just suddenly ends, and it's awful. I mean, you can see that. I think there's obviously been the thing of that Josh Trank has done kind of half the film, and then the other half has had to be made up by someone else who's basically improvised it, and it's a mess. It's just horrible because of it.
Yeah, you know how I feel about the second Iron Man film. I think it's a really bad movie.
I don't know.
Well, I do. I think it's a really bad movie. I felt it was one of Marvel's worst films. Guess what? I'll gladly watch Iron Man 2 than watch Fantastic Four again, because at least there was stuff in Iron Man 2, which was slightly entertaining. The soundtrack is not. The AC/DC is just a really bad soundtrack.
Oh,
but,
just don't go there.
Yeah, I have.
No.
It's a horrible soundtrack.
It's
I'm not
not
a fan of them anyway, but I thought the soundtrack was horrible. But at least there are some entertaining bits and bobs in Iron Man 2. In this, I couldn't even find, apart from like I said, the bit where it is involving them escaping from this facility, where Reed Richards actually is escaping from the facility, and it's got a horror tinge to it. I thought that worked quite well. Just the rest of the film, I wanted to end after about 15 minutes, and you never want that in a superhero movie.
Nope.
Whereas in fact, with Vacation, I wanted to end after 5 minutes.
Yeah. Straight out of the gate, straight to the whole thing. Yep, done with it.
Yeah, it's a movie that has two directors, in John Francis Daley and Jonathan M. Goldstein, and it's sort of like a reboot of the National Lampoon series. Now, some of them movies didn't work, but there are some of them in the National Lampoon series which are just comedy genius. Christmas Vacation, for one of them, is just an absolutely fantastic film to watch. Very entertaining Christmas movie. So why did they think that by getting Ed Helms and Christina Applegate to play a couple with two of the most annoying children ever created on screen together to try and reboot the series, to take them to Wally World and hijinks happens along the way? When did they think that was a good idea? Here's a clip.
Yeah, that's what's up. I cannot believe that they are still doing this.
What is it?
It is the Tri-Pie Chug Run. You have to chug a big pitcher of beer, and then you have to get through the course as fast as you can.
And you did this? Because you hardly drink.
No, yeah, but honey, it's for charity.
Hi, would you like to donate to Asperger's?
Oh, no, we're just stopping by. I was a Tri-Pie a long time ago, so. In fact, the Chug Run was my idea.
It was?
Are you Debbie Fletcher? How do you know who I am?
Oh my god, are you kidding me? You're like a legend at Tri-Pie. You're Debbie, do anything! See?
Huh? Oh, God.
Is it true that you climbed the clock tower naked?
Oh, of course not.
Did you really burn down the Taco Bell?
Okay, ladies.
I heard that you stuck a finger in the dean's...
Go play.
That's probably the funniest bit of the film.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the film, for me, is one of those films that, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen all the funniest bits.
Yeah, they tried to actually help it along by adding a couple of penis jokes from Chris Hemsworth, which again is in the trailer, and by throwing in Leslie Mann and Chevy Chase, so bringing him back into it, and then Beverly D'Angelo, Charlie Day, cropped up as a suicidal guy who's just been dumped by his wife and then goes over a waterfall. And then you've got supposedly a psychopath played by Norman Reedus in this big, huge, massive truck who's chasing them down. And yay, comedy gold. It's terrible. It is just, honestly, it's really terrible. I did not laugh once. There wasn't a smirk, there wasn't a grimace, there wasn't even anything that could have been contemplated as wind that actually managed to create any kind of emotion from me during the entirety of the 90-minute running time. It was just, actually it's slightly more than 90 minutes, and it felt like 2.5 weeks. It's bad. It's just really bad. It hasn't got the heart. It just has not got anything to do with the National Lampoon's movies. Yeah, the adulty ones are slightly gross out humor, but at least it's still, you can find a few elements into them that are funny. Whereas in this one, it's just, no, nothing works in it at all. And those two kids, I just wanted to grab the plastic bag that one of them used on his brother and just suffocate them both at the same time. And you should never have that kind of murderous tendencies while watching a comedy. You should be laughing. What's so funny about sticking a plastic bag over somebody's head? How's that funny? That's not funny, that's just stupid. So yeah, it's just an awful film. It's really an awful movie.
Okay, so that won't be your movie of the week then.
I don't have one. I'm done.
Okay. Right, TV movies of the week. Well, I just do mine because I know you've got more than one. I've just got the one though. I've got Watchmen, which is on Channel 4. It's on Saturday the 19th at 10:30 p.m. So obviously bear in mind it is a 2 hour and 40 something minute long with adverts that will take you through into probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. but worth it. I think it is a good film, and I think it's Zack Snyder has just definitely got a visual style, but also there's a great story behind it as well.
Yeah, I've got two films, both kids' films, both not on Film 4, both during the afternoon as well, and none of them Studio Ghibli.
Okay.
So the first one is on, and both are actually on BBC One. So the first one's on BBC One on Saturday, the 19th, at 1:55 in the afternoon. It's The Muppets. Disney's The Muppets. Jason Segel wrote this 1,000,000 times better than the sequel. This is a really fun, entertaining family film. It's got some fantastic musical numbers in it. I just loved it. The kids will absolutely love it as well. The Muppets sort of like got a little bit of a resurgence at the moment, even though the TV series, the new reboot of the TV series, is lost a lot of viewers in America. It's still got a slightly resurgence, but the Muppets movie is just, I think it's a really entertaining film. Very well, you should stick your kids down and watch it. And on the flip side of, in a way, it's on Sunday at 1:15 on BBC One also, Rise of the Guardians. Now, I know you didn't like this that much compared to me. I loved it. I thought Rise of the Guardians was a very well created film. It's very dark, very, very dark for a kid's film. It's by DreamWorks, and the animation's really good in it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad they're going to sit down and watch it again, so I haven't seen it for a little while. But it's got help from Guillermo del Toro, because he worked on the film itself, surprisingly, me choosing a Del Toro movie, and you can see where Del Toro's like fingerprints is on the film from its darkness, and I think it's a good film to watch. You'll need to actually sit with younger kids if you're watching that, because there are moments where they will be scared, but please watch it, because I think it's a very underrated animated film.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. We will be back next week, but we'll also be back at some point as well with details regarding obviously the Star Wars special that we'll be doing with guests from Following the Nerd making an appearance on the show. Yep, fingers crossed that will happen. It's a case of that because the next show possibly maybe on the Monday, we'll have to sort that out, and we'll put it on the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk, hopefully along as well with some of the aforementioned trailers that we talked about earlier, because there basically have been a shed load of them, and they're really worth checking out. If you're into any of that sort of thing, you'll be blown away by a few of them, as we were. Also places you can find us as usual on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Stuart is on there at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDVD, and you can find us on Facebook as well at facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. A couple of shout outs too, as we already mentioned there just now, the Following the Nerd, which is just followingthenerd.com, and also the From Page to Screen network, which is from page the number 2 screen.co.uk, was .com. I think it's is it .com? Is it .co.uk? And we'll, as I say, be back, of course, next week with Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Unfortunately, we're trying to get a clip for the end of the show. None have really been released, apart from sort of a 16-second clip, so we don't have a clip for that.
One other quick thing, when we do return for the next show, it will be our last proper show of the year. So the way we do it is, because of the fact that we can't review cinema releases in advance, we will be getting new films released over Boxing Day. We can look ahead to some of the DVD releases. So we are reviewing films that are out on the Monday on DVD and Blu-ray, and we're also looking ahead to a few films released on the Monday after. So we're looking at things like Hitman Agent 47 and Ricky and the Flash, Sinister 2 and Transporter Refueled on next week's show alongside Star Wars, which we'll probably go over the news in the box office top 10, the fastest we've ever done.
Yeah. But we'll leave you with a clip, as always, of an upcoming film. What's going to be actually is David O. Russell's Joy, which stars Jennifer Lawrence, and amongst others you'll hear in this clip Robert De Niro. You have Bradley Cooper sort of making an appearance in the film as well, and so that's coming out, I believe, on New Year's Day, if there's any cinemas open. Then otherwise it'll be from there afterwards. And we will see you next week, so to look forward to that in a couple of weeks' time. Until the next show, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi. What are you doing here?
I'm returning him to you. I don't want him anymore.
What?
He's damaged. He has no place else to go. He's been living in my house for 2 years.
Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But, you know, Tony's living in the basement.
Your ex-husband shouldn't be living in your basement. That's not the proper way to be divorced.
Okay. I don't know where I'm going to put you. Dad, don't go in there. Mom's in there.
You can have him back, Terry. I don't want him anymore.
What's so much better about being with Sharon, Rudy? Dad, don't answer that.
We went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
What did you like at the museum?
What did I like? I'll tell you what I liked. I liked the ancient Roman statues. I liked the medieval armor. I liked the Etruscan jewelry.
Museums
I liked
are
going
full
to the
of dust
cafe,
and death.
having an espresso, a nice panini.
Enough.
That's what I liked.
You had a panini in a coffin, Rudy. A dusty, boring coffin.
Then why'd you ask me? What are you, a crazy person? It's like having a conversation with an insane
What else,
asylum
Captain
person.
Jack? What else was so great?
Captain Jack, you
Yes,
call
you're
me. Okay.
Captain Jack, the flying jackass.
And you know what you are? You're like a gas leak. We don't smell
I
you,
am
we don't
not
see you,
a
but you're
gas
killing
leak.
us
You
all
take that back
silently.
and tell me what else you did with Sharon.
You creature from the Black Lagoon.